All Lonnie ever wanted was peace. But peace, it seemed, had other plans. Welcome to African Tales by Hope, where African stories come alive. Subscribe and join the family of storytellers. Every family carries a story, some whispered, some shouted by fate. But for Lonnie, tragedy was stitched into her name. From the moment she arrived, life seemed to choose her for sorrow. Her father was married to his bottle, not her mother. Every night, their small house turned into a boxing ring. Her mother's cries were the bell, and her father's fists, the sound of defeat. One stormy night, her mother vanished into the dark, leaving 3-year-old Lonnie behind. Nobody knew where she went. Her father sank deeper into the bottle, drowning himself one gulp at a time. It was the liquor that did what no man could. It took his life. When the neighbors found him, the smell of gin filled the room. Lonnie sat on the floor beside him, too young to understand death, too small to hold grief. Her grandparents took her in. For a while, things grew steady again. Her grandfather, known across the village as Baba Koro, the herbalist everyone respected, gave her warmth and a sense of home. He often told her stories by the fire. "You see, my Lonnie," he'd say, "every leaf on a tree has its own story. Even you." She'd giggle and ask, "What's my story, Grandpa?" He'd smile, his eyes gentle. "Yours, my child, will shine bright through the dark." But one afternoon, when Lonnie was 10, Baba Koro went to the farm and never came back. A snake bit him, and before anyone could fetch help, he collapsed on the dusty path. Lonnie ran barefoot through the fields when she heard the news, screaming his name, her little heart cracking wide open. That night, her grandmother, Nana Bina, pulled her close and whispered through tears, "Lonnie, you are the light. You will guide us out of this darkness." Life with Nana Bina was quiet but hard. The old woman sold herbs and ointments in the market, while Lonnie fetched water, swept the compound, and helped grind leaves into medicine. At night, they would sit outside, watching fireflies dance in the dark. "Nana," Lonnie once asked, "why do bad things keep happening to us?" The old woman smiled faintly. "Because light must prove itself against the night, my child. But don't worry, your dawn will come." At 17, Lonnie's dawn seemed far away. She had fallen in love with Tayo, a young man with a wide smile and hands that always smelled like engine oil. He wasn't rich, but he was kind, and when he laughed, Lonnie forgot her sadness. "One day, I'll marry you," he said one evening as they sat by the river. Lonnie laughed shyly. "You better not be lying, Tayo." He grinned. "Me? Never. You'll be my wife. I'll build us a home." Then the test of life came again. When Lonnie discovered she was pregnant, whispers spread through the village like wildfire. Women shook their heads at the market. Men muttered at the palm wine stand. "Another girl ruined," they said. Nana Bina held her close, tears in her eyes but strength in her voice. "We will face them together," she said. Lonnie tried to believe her, even as shame burned her skin. Tayo promised marriage, swore he'd come for her soon. But fate was listening. One morning, Tayo's family loaded crates of drinks into a bus, ready to meet Nana Bina and pay the bride price. Lonnie waited, heart pounding, her belly gently rounding. Hours passed, then days, but the bus never arrived. News came instead, terrible, cruel news. There had been an accident on the highway. The bus had somersaulted into a ditch. Everyone inside was gone. Tayo, his parents, his brothers, all lost in one sweep. Lonnie's world shattered in silence. She pressed her hands against her belly and whispered through tears, "It's just you and me now." After the accident, Lonnie moved through life like a ghost. She gave birth to a baby boy on a rainy night, naming him Nilo. "You're my heartbeat," she whispered, tracing his tiny fingers. "We'll make it, you and I." The village women gossiped, but Lonnie no longer cared. Her grandmother's health was failing, and she had no time for shame. By day, she sold sachet water and roasted plantain by the roadside. By night, she walked miles to attend secretarial school in the next town. Those nights were cruel. Some evenings, Nana Bina's voice echoed weakly when Lonnie returned from class. "Lonnie, I'm tired. This boy will finish my strength." Lonnie would kneel beside her, massaging her swollen knees with trembling hands. "Just a little longer, Nana," she would whisper, forcing a smile. "I promise you soft life soon." Then she'd tiptoe to check on Nilo, who slept with his tiny arms flung open, unaware of the weight his mother carried. One night, after another long class, Lonnie sat outside her grandmother's hut, staring at the stars. Her hands were cracked from work, her eyes heavy from exhaustion. "God?" she murmured. "Do you see me at all?" The night offered no answer. But when morning came, she rose again, packed her tray of goods, tied Nilo to her back, and went out to hustle. There was no other choice. After years of burning her candle from both ends, the reward finally came. Lonnie graduated secretarial school with top marks. When she saw her certificate, she cried, not from joy, but from relief. Soon after, she landed a job as a personal assistant to the CEO of the biggest tech company in the city. On her first day, she stood in front of the glass building, clutching her handbag, whispering to herself, "Things are about to get better." She didn't know fate was only catching its breath. 5 years passed like a quiet dream. Nilo had grown into a curious 5-year-old who asked endless questions. "Mama, why is the sky blue? Mama, when will I grow a beard like Uncle Caro? Mama, why don't I have a daddy like the others?" Lonnie would smile and answer what she could, dodging what she couldn't. Each question was a small knife twisting in her chest, but she hid the pain behind soft laughter. At work, she was unstoppable. Her colleagues called her Iron Lady. She arrived early, stayed late, and never joined gossip in the break room. While others chatted about fashion or office romance, Lonnie focused on reports, budgets, and presentation slides. Mr. Lorne, the CEO, often said, "If I had 10 Lannis, this company would run itself." She didn't care for praise. She cared for Nilo and for peace. For once, life seemed to finally respect her effort. Then came Darren. He was handsome, calm, and carried an air that made people lower their voices when he entered a room. A high-ranking police officer from a wealthy family, yet humble in speech. They met at Nilo's school during career day. Darren had been invited by his cousin, the school owner, to speak about life in the police service. After the event, as Lonnie hurried out with Nilo, she bumped into him by the gate. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said, blushing. He smiled. "It's all right. But since fate insists on us meeting, can I offer you coffee?" Lonnie laughed softly. "You don't give up easily, do you?" Darren grinned. "Not when something good stands in front of me." At first, she resisted. She wasn't ready for love. But he was relentless in the gentlest way. Flowers appeared on her desk. Calls came every evening. He even showed up at her gate once with soup when she had a cold. Nilo adored him instantly. They played football, built kites, and laughed until Lonnie's heart began to open again, little by little. One humid evening, as Lonnie massaged her grandmother's aching legs, Nana Bina looked at her with tired, loving eyes. "Child," she said, "you've carried the world too long. Let him in. That man truly loves you. Nilo needs a father, and I won't be here forever." Lonnie hesitated, twisting her hands in her lap. "Nana, what if it all goes wrong again?" The old woman smiled. "Then you'll rise again. You always do." Months later, after much prayer and reflection, Lonnie said yes. She and Darren married in a simple civil ceremony. There were no grand decorations or music, just quiet joy and laughter. Darren officially adopted Nilo, and the boy beamed with pride, telling everyone at school, "My father is a police officer." For the first time in her life, Lonnie felt like she had stepped out of the storm into sunlight. Darren surprised her by asking that Nana Bina move in with them. "Family is everything," he said, holding Lonnie's hand. "She took care of you when no one else did. Now it's your turn to take care of her." Lonnie's heart swelled. That night, she whispered to her grandmother, "The soft life I promised you is finally here." Nana Bina only smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Their home filled with laughter and warmth. Darren prayed every morning before work. He led family devotions and often organized donations for orphanages during Christmas. He seemed perfect, too perfect. Lonnie, however, didn't question her blessings. For years, she had begged heaven for peace. Now, she finally had it. Years passed, and Darren climbed the ranks. When he became Inspector General of Police, the entire neighborhood celebrated. Lonnie watched him on television, giving speeches about justice and integrity. She smiled proudly. "The girl who once sold plantain chips now sits beside the IGP," she whispered, half in disbelief. But soon, the shadows crept in. Little things at first. Nilo, now 10, began to change. He grew quieter, sometimes trembling in his sleep. He woke screaming in the middle of the night. "Mama! Mama!" he'd cry, clutching his chest. When she asked what frightened him, he only shook his head, tears streaming down his small face. Lonnie and Darren took him to school counselors. "We suspect bullying," one teacher said gently, "but we can't identify the source yet." Darren held Lonnie's shoulder. "Don't worry, love," he said softly. "We'll get through this. Our boy is strong." His voice was steady, but his eyes had changed. They held something cold, distant, like a shadow behind glass. Nilo's silence deepened. He stopped talking altogether, communicating only with gestures. Lonnie began sleeping beside him every night, whispering songs from his baby years. "Talk to me, Nilo," she begged. "Please." But he would only stare, lost somewhere far away. Darren claimed to be busier at work, often leaving late. Sometimes, Lonnie woke in the night to find his side of the bed empty. "He's probably in his study," she'd tell herself, though unease curled in her stomach. One night, close to Nilo's 10th birthday, Lonnie woke suddenly. The house was silent except for the ticking clock. Darren's side of the bed was cold. "Again," she muttered. She stepped into the corridor, yawning, but froze mid-step. Ahead of her, Darren walked slowly, wearing a red hooded gown. In his hand was Nilo's small palm. Lonnie's breath caught. Her mother's instinct screamed, "Don't call out." She followed quietly as they approached the far end of the hallway. Darren pressed a panel in the wall. A hidden door opened, revealing stairs descending into darkness. Lonnie's heart pounded as she slipped in before it closed. Each step echoed like thunder in her chest. The stairs led to a chamber lit by flickering red lamps. Strange symbols marked the walls. 6 hooded figures stood in a circle, chanting softly. Lonnie hid behind a pillar, trembling. Darren led Nilo to the center of the room and laid him on a stone table. The boy's eyes were half open, dazed. Darren raised his hands, chanting words Lonnie couldn't understand. Something inside her broke. "No!" she screamed, rushing forward. She grabbed Nilo, pulling him into her arms. The hooded figures lunged, blocking her way. Her screams echoed through the chamber. Then Darren's voice boomed. "Let her go." The men froze. Lonnie stumbled backward, clutching Nilo, her tears blinding her as she ran up the stairs, through the hidden door, into the hallway. Darren followed her, breathless, his hood thrown back. "Lonnie, please," he cried. "You don't understand. If I didn't offer him, they would have taken worse. I was protecting him." She turned, her eyes blazing. "Protecting him? You were about to destroy him. All these years praying, preaching, pretending. You're the devil in my own home." Nilo clung to her waist, trembling. "We're leaving," Lonnie said coldly, packing bags with shaking hands. Darren fell to his knees. "Lonnie, please, I love you both. You can't go." She didn't answer. She took Nilo's hand and walked out of the mansion that night, barefoot, heartbroken but spirit unbroken. She thought leaving would end it, but it only began another nightmare. Weeks later, at work, she felt eyes on her. Conversations died when she entered a room. One morning, the CEO's security guard, Mr. Paco, escorted her to the office. Inside were the top executives, faces hard as stone. "Lonnie," said Mr. Lorne, "you've been accused of leaking company secrets. We lost a major bid because of you." Her world tilted. "Sir, no. I would never." "Please, you know me," she cried. Mr. Lorne's voice was flat. "We found evidence. You're fired. Leave before I call the police." Lonnie fell to her knees, tears streaming. "I have a child, sir. I've worked here 10 years. He looked away. "Then you should have thought of him before you did this." Lonnie stumbled home, heart pounding, mind spinning. Before she reached her gate, her phone rang. It was the school. "Madam," said the teacher, voice shaky. "Nilo has collapsed. He's in the hospital." Lonnie dropped everything and ran. But when she arrived, a woman in a black suit blocked her path. "Mrs. Arrow," the woman said calmly, "I'm from social welfare. You can't see your son. He's been showing signs of neglect and arrived at school with bruises. Custody has been temporarily given to his father until investigations are complete." Lonnie's knees weakened. "You gave my son to that monster?" she screamed. "How much did he pay you?" The woman stepped back. Security rushed in. That outburst sealed her fate. By nightfall, Lonnie found herself strapped to a bed in a dim hospital room, labeled unstable. She whispered into the darkness, "God, are you asleep? Please wake up." Nilo needs you. Then the door creaked open. A shadow spilled across the floor. Darren stood there, smiling. His eyes glowed with quiet triumph. See what stubbornness brought you, he said softly. Come back to me, or forget your son forever. Please, like and share. Don't forget to hit on the subscribe button.